Have you ever sat in front of your watercolor palette feeling completely unsure about which colors to mix, or how to avoid ending up with a muddy mess? Well, the good news is there's a simple, proven system for understanding colors that will help you mix and match any color with confidence. In this video, I'm going to show you the 3 key color properties that most beginners completely overlook. Plus, I'll show you an easy 3-step method to apply them so you can mix colours accurately in watercolour without the frustration or guesswork. But before we dive in, if you're new here, hi, I'm Anthony. I'm a professional artist and over the past 10 years I've taught thousands of students how to paint confidently in watercolour, even if they felt completely lost at the start. If that sounds like you, I've put together a free watercolour course that'll help you get started the right way. You'll find the link below, so pop the kettle on and grab the free mini course. Don't worry, I can wait. Okay, now if you're a beginner feeling overwhelmed by colour mixing, you're definitely not alone. It's one of the most common struggles I see from students inside my beginner's watercolour masterclass. And if I'm being honest, colour mixing wasn't always obvious to me either. I'd spend ages mixing and adjusting colours trying to find the right shade and still end up with something that looked dull or completely wrong. It was pretty frustrating. But when I finally learned about these 3 colour properties, everything changed. Mixing became simpler, my paintings looked better, and the whole process became much more fun. Here's the thing I realised. The reason I couldn't get the right colours in my paintings wasn't a lack of skill or practice, it was simply because I hadn't learned to see colour the right way. I hadn't learned about something called the dimensions of colour. So, what are the dimensions of colour? There are 3 dimensions of colour that allow us to describe colour appearance accurately. They are hue, chroma, and value. In a similar way to how an object's physical dimensions, its length, width and height, define its size and shape, these 3 colour properties reveal how colour really works and how we perceive and describe it. It gives us a more accurate vocabulary for talking about colours in art. You've probably seen hue, chroma and value mentioned before during your artistic journey, but only when you put all 3 together do you get a full picture of the colour's appearance. Full picture? Get it? After all, it is a painting lesson. Okay, well, let's start at the beginning, with the property that artists rely on first when identifying a colour: hue. You know how when you look at a colour and instantly know it's red, green or whatever. For example, when you spot a banana, you immediately think yellow, or apricots are orange, kiwis are green. You get the idea. Well, that instant recognition is what artists call hue. And it's basically the thing that makes each colour unique and recognisable. It's the name we'd naturally give it based on its colour family. Hue refers to the aspect of colour we usually describe with familiar names like red, blue, green and so on. These can be primary colours, red, blue, yellow, secondary colours, orange, green and purple, or anything in between. So a simple definition of hue would be something like this. Think of hue as the pure basic version of a colour, like the name you'd find on a paint tube before anything is added to lighten or darken it. It's the starting point of any colour. So now that we've nailed down what colour something is, the hue, let's look at the next dimension, the one that affects how vibrant or muted a colour looks. Chroma is the intensity or saturation of a colour. It describes how bright and vibrant a colour appears or how dull and neutral it looks. High chroma means the colour is vivid and intense, while low chroma means the colour is more muted or greyish. High chroma colour pops off the page with intensity. A low chroma colour feels more subtle, soft or neutral. For example, think of the sky. On some days it's a bold electric blue. On others it's a much softer greyish blue. Same hue, different chroma. So here's a simple definition of chroma. Think of chroma as how pure or intense a hue appears. It's a way to describe how colourful or colourless a certain hue looks. So if chroma tells us how intense a colour feels, Value tells us how light or dark it appears. Simply put, value is the lightness or darkness of a color. It's one of the most powerful tools you have for creating depth and contrast in your artwork. Without a good range of values, even the best color choices can end up looking flat. Values help convey a sense of realism and 3 dimensions. In watercolors, we adjust value by diluting or thickening the paint mixture, or by layering colors on top of each other using a glazing technique. Diluting the paint creates lighter values. Thickening the paint mixture creates darker ones. And because watercolors are transparent, layering colors on top of each other using a glazing technique darkens the values of a painting. For comparison, notice that with opaque mediums like acrylic or oil, artists usually adjust value by mixing in white or black. So here's a simple definition of value. Think of value in watercolors as how diluted or concentrated your paint is. It's what makes a color look lighter or darker on the page. This is where the magic starts to happen, and how you can use your knowledge of these 3 color properties to mix amazing and accurate colors far more easily. By understanding hue, chroma and value, this lets us precisely describe and mix colors to achieve a desired result. Now that you know what these dimensions of color are, you can use them to mix any color with this simple 3-step process. First, identify the target hue. Second, adjust the chroma. And third, change the value. So if you've ever found yourself struggling to recreate the exact shade you're aiming for, try using these 3 steps to get the right mixture. Here's an example of how this works. Step 1. Begin by pinpointing the target hue you're aiming for. This is your starting point for mixing any color. For example, use a simple color wheel to locate the approximate hue you want to match. This might be a primary color that you grab straight from the palette, or a secondary color you need to mix up. In this example here, I'm assuming my end color is a kind of light brown color. Browns are essentially neutral oranges, so I'll start by mixing a pure bright orange hue. Step 2. Now consider the chroma you're aiming for. For example, is the target hue colorful or colorless? Is it a vivid hue, or does the color mixture need toning down? If you're targeting a bright color, you don't need to change anything. Just go straight to step 3. Otherwise, you can adjust chroma by adding complementary colors to the paint mix. So in this example, to make my orange hue more brown, I can make the mixture more neutral by mixing in a warm blue like French ultramarine. Step 3. Now you have a puddle of paint that approaches your desired hue, you only need to adjust one final parameter, the value. And in watercolor painting, the values of any color are controlled by adjusting the water to paint ratio. Diluting the paint lightens the tonal value, while darker hues need less water. Let's assume for our example I'm aiming for a light brown color, maybe a bit like yellow ochre. So I'll add more water until I reach the correct value or lightness. I think you can see using the dimensions of color in this order when mixing watercolors is a very useful way to get to your target color quickly and easily. And if you'd like to see my step-by-step guide to how to start watercolors from scratch, go watch this video next. Oh, and don't forget to enjoy that cup of tea and sign up for the free watercolor lessons in the link below. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my YouTube channel.